and welcome to this week's live. It is great to have you here. Please let me know where you are viewing this from or if you're watching the replay. And this week, I'm thinking about the 4 jobs that your content should do, because most businesses are still running the same content strategy that worked for them 3 years ago, and they're confused why 6 months of hard effort hasn't produced a single client conversation. And I've spent over a decade helping experts and consultants turn their LinkedIn into the #1 source of getting new clients without burning out or trying to keep up with the latest hacks. And the gap between who's winning on LinkedIn right now and who's wasting their time has never been clearer. And in this video, I'm going to show you why you need to rethink the purpose of your content. And by doing so, you'll stop being tied to endless content that never converts and start focusing on what's actually working right now online on LinkedIn. So I'm going to give you the 4 jobs your content needs to fulfill and the one strategy that you should have running every week. So without it, you won't find new clients consistently. But let's start with what most people get wrong, because it's fundamental. So let me frame this for you. Most people, and I have made this mistake in the past, think content is for visibility, to get seen, to show up, to stay consistent, to get in front of clients. But that's the old model. And it's why so many smart people are working twice as hard for half the results. The feed is full of visible people who aren't being hired. They're not busy. Visibility on its own, it's purely noise. And the algorithm, remember, it got smarter than the visibility game last year. So the people getting hired by new clients on LinkedIn now, they're not doing visibility. They're doing these 4 jobs. And visibility is a byproduct. It's not the goal. So I'm going to run through these 4 jobs with you. And I want you to think which one is really missing from your toolbox. It might be more than one. And let me know in the comments as I'm running through these. So the first one is backdrop. Content is the backdrop to every conversation you're already having. Most people treat content and conversation as 2 separate jobs. They're not. They never were. Every DM you send, every sales call you take, every reply that comes back in your inbox, all of it happens against the backdrop of what you've been posting and what's on your profile. They're incredibly important. We know from the stats that people check you out. And actually, since 360 Brew has come into place, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, we now get to see in our notifications how many profile views a post has brought in. And so it's highlighting how important our content is for people checking us out. Content is a backdrop. So when somebody messages you, they've already met a version of you on your profile or your feed. They did half the work before the conversation started for you. Now flip it. Think about the last time you sent a cold message. I'm not a huge fan of them, and felt that awkwardness of being a stranger. That's the absence of this job. There's no backdrop, and you're starting from 0 every time. The job isn't to replace conversations, it's to make them easier, shorter, warmer, to close that distance between who this person is and, or rather I should say, who is this person and I trust this person enough, or I'm intrigued enough to reply. So several years ago, I started talking to a great prospect. It was going to be working with them for a whole year to training their teams all over the UK, creating strategy and consulting. It was a wonderful project to get my teeth into with a really large company and extremely financially rewarding. I knew that they didn't have the budget until Q3, but everything was going smoothly until suddenly I hit a wall of silence. DMs didn't get a response, emails remained unreplied to. I kind of wondered what I did wrong. That's where the backdrop content came into play. I decided to write posts for a couple of weeks that spoke to the very issues that they were trying to sort out and address. And boom, by the end of the second week, a DM landed in my inbox with all the details that I had been waiting for. And it wasn't my fault. There was stuff going on within the company, there was personal stuff going on. And that content, that backdrop content, reignited, reminded that prospect that they needed to get in touch and sort stuff out. So to only write for views or engagement is incredibly short-sighted, even though they feel like progress, even though it feels like relief. And I know sometimes I've looked at my posts and thought, crap, there are no comments on that post. There are very few likes. But actually, at the end of the week, when I review my week, it's those posts often that have drawn people to message me. So what you actually want is warm signals that tell you exactly who to follow up with that week. You should be doing a Friday follow-up. It will bring you, like I said, inbound inquiries from people who are starting to feel they know you and know your work and want to test the waters. Profile visits from buyers you didn't know were watching. Comment sections become your next discovery calls or next conversations, and a pipeline that quietly builds in the background of people that you know have questions, who need help, and who need answers. Every one of those is a job your content can be doing right now. Instead of making the mistake, instead of mistaking the dopamine hit of engagement for progress, which it isn't. And the truth is, most of the people liking your posts will never hire you. I've looked back at 90% of the engagement of clients as they've come on, and there's rarely been any on my posts. So views are the byproduct. Your job is what comes after the views, and most people have never been told there's a difference. So here's the test when thinking about the backdrop job of your content. Ask yourself, would this make the next conversation I have easier or just neutral? Would it make the next DM I send land in a much more resilient way, or would it just get scrolled past? If it's neutral, it's not working hard enough. So job one is the backdrop. So let's move on to number 2. This is an interesting one because it's all about the feeling. So job 2 is the feeling. Content makes people feel, and feeling is what gets remembered. And here's what neuroscience has known for decades, but most content creators ignore it. Your brain prioritizes emotional information for long-term storage. Neutral information competes for attention, but emotional information wins it every time. And that's why You can't recall the last training video you watched on YouTube, but you can record in detail a single conversation that made you feel something 18 months ago, when your brother pissed you off, when somebody showed incredible gratitude and said something nice, because there's that feeling. And this isn't a content tip, this is how memory works. So when you write a post that's technically correct but emotionally flat, your reader doesn't store it, not because they didn't read it, but because their brain didn't flag it as worth keeping. And this is what's going on in the brains and the minds of your reader. If your reader doesn't feel something in their brains, you haven't been seen, you've been skimmed. And this is where most experts get stuck. They think the job is to inform, to entertain, to educate, to give value. And that's all part of it. But value without feeling is just a download. It's not a relationship. And it won't be remembered tomorrow, let alone next month, or when they actually need someone to help them, just like you. The feelings that move people on LinkedIn aren't dramatic. They're that quiet recognition, relief, permission, mild discomfort, the feeling maybe of, I thought I was the only one. That's the work of the feeling posts. And you can probably name 2 or 3 teachers from your school days out of dozens that taught you over hundreds and hundreds of hours of lessons. And the ones that you remember aren't the ones that taught you the most or taught you the wellest, the best. They're the ones that made you feel something. They're the ones that believed in you, embarrassed you, saw you, scared you, like Miss Banner in my 3rd year at junior school, who would never let me go to the loo. I don't need to finish that story. But they made you feel something. And the information they delivered is gone, but that feeling 30 years on is still with you. You still remember them. And that's the bar your content has to clear, because the next time your reader is sitting in front of a problem that you know you can solve, your name must be the one that surfaces, not because you were the loudest, but because you were the one that their brain stored. So we've got the backdrop, the feeling, and the next job is the language. Content gives language to what the reader couldn't name. Let me unpack that for you. There's a phenomenon in psychology called affect labeling, and neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman and his team spent over 20 years studying it. Here's what they found. Bear with me. The simple act of putting a feeling into words measurably reduces emotional stress. It activates the prefrontal cortex, that rational planning, decision-making part of the brain, and it calms the amygdala, the part that fires the alarm. In other words, the moment a vague feeling gets a precise word attached to it, the brain shifts gears. Reactivity drops, clarity rises, control returns. Hold that thought for a second, because that's exactly what's happening in the heads of your clients now. Most of your buyers don't know exactly what's wrong, but you do, and that's why you're the specialist. They know something is off, they feel it. It might be that their pipeline isn't where it should be, content isn't landing, their health isn't up to par, their sleep, their productivity, whatever it is, the wrong people keep showing up in their life. They're putting in the hours and the results just don't match the effort. But if you ask them to articulate the actual problem, they can't. They use words like, I just feel stuck, or I'm really frustrated, or I'm angry, or they just know something is off. And it's not because they are particularly slow or unaware, it's because they don't have language for it yet. And here's the part that matters for your content. Until they can name it, they can't act on it. They can't make a buying decision. They can't choose between options. They can't even fully explain to their partner or their team what they need. They are walking around with a feeling that has no shape. And that's where you come in. The job of a post isn't to teach them necessarily, but it's to put into words the feeling they've been carrying. In other words, it's like being a fly on the wall of their lives. When a reader thinks, that is exactly it, something significant has just happened in the brain. The amygdala has quietened, the prefrontal cortex has engaged, that vague distress has become a defined problem, and the person who handed them that was language. They're now the person their brain has tagged as the one who sees the situation clearly, the person who handed them the language. That's not flattery, it's neuroscience. It's the foundation of every authority position that's been built online. You didn't teach them, you translated for them. In their head, you are now permanently associated with relief, clarity, and being seen. That's where most experts get it backwards. They try to be clever, they try to be original, say something original, that people have never heard before, particularly when we're experiencing a lot of AI slop. Be original. They try to say something nobody else has done. They reach for an unusual angle, the contrarian take, the hot take that will go viral. That's not the job of content. The job is to say what your reader has already been feeling clearly, specifically, in language they recognize instantly, not language they have to decode, not language that makes them feel smaller, language that makes them go, oh, that's it, that's the word. If they have to work to understand it, you've lost them. If they read the post and think, blimey, that's the most accurate thing anyone has said about my situation in months, then you've got them. You're not the teacher, you're their translator. And the work of a translator isn't to be impressive, it's to be precise. The expert who can put exact words to a vague feeling is the expert the buyer goes to. Not because they're the smartest in the room, because they're the one who made the fog lift. That's a position you can't compete with on price. You can't compete with it on credentials, and you can't compete with it on follower count. Because once you are the person that gave someone language for the thing they couldn't make, you have something money can't manufacture. Trust. You've won their trust. And from that point on, sale doesn't need to be made, it just needs to be confirmed, just needs to be drawn in. So we've got the backdrop, we've got feeling, and we've got the final one, we've got language. So the previous one, we've got language. So number 4 is the signal. And content trains the algorithm to find more of the right people. And this is almost one that nobody is talking about properly. And it's the one that changed the game on LinkedIn, probably in the last 12 months, where we all noticed that reach had dropped considerably. Because every post that you write on LinkedIn is an instruction to LinkedIn about who you're for. Most people don't realize they're training the algorithm at all. So they post what is ever on their mind that day. Motivation Monday, personal stuff on Tuesday, expertise on Wednesday, and LinkedIn. I'm laughing because that's what I used to teach, because it did work 3 to 5 years ago. But LinkedIn is patiently learning from every single one of those posts what kind of audience to send them. And if your content is mixed, your audience is going to be mixed. If your content is sharp and specific to one buyer, LinkedIn will start finding more of that buyer, not by luck, but by matching. Let me make this really concrete for you. I worked with a coach last year who'd been posting daily for 18 months. I mean, hats off to him. Mostly motivational content, mindset stuff, quotes, inspirational letters. And his engagement looked really healthy. Plenty of likes, comments, and regular shares. The numbers told him that his content was working, but actually his pipeline was empty. And his algorithm wasn't broken. It had learned exactly who responded to his posts. Who was that? Other coaches, life coaches, hopefuls, burnt out professionals looking for a free hit of encouragement. And so it kept sending him more of them. He stopped writing motivation. He picked one specific problem that his buyers were actually dealing with. And again, he wrote about that consistently for 60 days. 6 weeks in, the audience had shifted. He was the same person with the same expertise and the same posting frequency, but a completely different inbox. He didn't fix the algorithm, he retrained it. And LinkedIn now runs on an AI system alongside its existing algorithms called 360 Brew. And I've covered that previously, and I'll tell you where to access that training in a minute. And it's a model trained on the platform's signals to match content to the people most likely to respond to it, which means your content isn't being shown to your followers anymore. It's being shown to the audience the system has decided your content is for. So if you want to know how 360 Brew works, what it means for your posting strategy, look at last month's live, not the last one, but the next one on. And if you missed it and you want to watch it again, the replay is on my profile activity. So your content isn't fighting the algorithms or the systems, it's programming it. And the right people aren't hard to reach. They're hard to reach with the wrong signal. There's the bit nobody really wants to hear. If you've been posting for months and the wrong people have been showing up, the algorithm isn't broken. It is working perfectly. It's giving you exactly what you trained it to give. The good news is you can retrain it, starting with the very next post you write. So drop in the comments for me which of the 4 maybe have you been doing, and which job has made you go, oh, that's what's been missing. So we've got the backdrop, we've got the feeling, we've got the language, and then we've got the signal. Which of those 4 resonates with you, and which have you been missing? And do put them in the comments, because I will work through as many as I can. So most people are doing maybe just one of them, feeling or language, but almost no one is doing all 4 on purpose. And I'm not saying that you have to have all 4 in every piece of content, because there are times when, like with the backdrop, you might not want to be reaching or reviving a prospect that has gone dead. You might want to be sending people to your webinar or workshop. You might want to be sending people to your freebie. You might also want to be sending people to book a call. All of those has one of these 4 jobs within them that you can utilize. And when you're doing this, content stops being a bit of a treadmill. You realize actually when the content is fulfilling one of the jobs, DMs come from the right people, the conversations actually get shorter, sales get easier, and the algorithm starts working with you, not around you or over you. So this isn't more content. It's not a more content strategy. It's your content doing more, I guess. That's the gap. That's always the gap between people winning on LinkedIn right now and people still posting into the void. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's not who they know. It's that they've stopped using content the way you do, the way that we all did 3 or 4 years ago. So thank you for your comments. Here's what I want to leave you with. You don't need more content. You don't need a better hook formula. You don't need to post 7 days a week. You don't need to crack the algorithm. Although learning to write really well, learning and understanding how hooks arrest attention, I'm all for that. You do need your content to do one of these 4 jobs. That's it. That's the whole shift. If you go away from this live and do nothing else, just remember backdrop, feeling, language, signal, and ask yourself which one each post is before you write it. And it might have 2. Your content will start doing the work for you better than it ever have done before. And if you want me to walk through that change with you, to look at your specific situation, audience, your specific content, you know where to find me. DM me and we could talk about what that would look like. The replay will be on my profile for anyone that has just joined us and wants to watch the whole thing. But the most important thing happens before any of that. It happens the next time you sit down and write a post. Don't write, what should I post about? Ask, what is this post for? And that one question changes everything. I'm Jill Chitty. I'm hot Jill Chitty. It's extremely hot for us in the UK. And if you've got any questions, any queries, please pop them in the comments. If you'd like to know how to work out a better content strategy that's working now, just reach out to me and we will have a chat about what that looks like. Until the next time, I love you and leave you.